If you're cisgender, there's a question you've probably never had to ask yourself. When should I tell someone I'm interested in that I'm cis? The answer is obvious. You don't. Your gender identity is just assumed, and that assumption is almost always accurate. You don't have to worry that revealing this basic fact about yourself might result in rejection, humiliation, or violence. You can focus on the normal dating anxieties. Do they like me? Should I text first? Was the fact they talked about their mom for 15 minutes sweet or concerning? All without an additional layer of risk assessment happening underneath. But if you're trans, the question of when to disclose that has no easy answer. Do you put it in your dating app profile? Then you're opening yourself up to a flood of messages invalidating your identity, saying you don't belong in that category, telling you you're disgusting. Every notification becomes a gamble. Is this a genuine connection or another person who swiped right just to say you're doing something wrong by existing? Or do you wait to disclose in person? Then you're weighing a different risk. What happens when you tell them? Will they feel deceived? Will they react with anger? Could this become dangerous? And even if they react well, there are more questions. Are they actually attracted to you, or are you just a fetish they want to try out? If they say they're fine with you being trans, will their actions match their words? Will they be comfortable being seen with you in public, introducing you to their family? Or will there always be this undercurrent of shame? This sense that they're attracted to you despite what you are, not because of who you are. These aren't theoretical concerns. For trans people, these are the actual calculations required before every swipe, every date, every moment of potential connection. And many cisgender people have no idea any of this is happening. Today, we're talking about dating while trans, the disclosure dilemmas, the safety concerns, the chasers, and the moments of genuine connection despite it all. Because what trans people face in dating reveals the stigma they navigate in every part of their lives, and what everyone needs to understand about their own desires and assumptions. I'm Ashley Hamer Pritchard, and this is Taboo Science, the podcast that answers the questions you're not allowed to ask.
If I was out at a bar or whatever, men would strike up a conversation in a way that you could tell that they were like, they were putting feelers out there, seeing if you're interested. And it was always awkward for me because I don't know if that person is potentially transphobe or not. I don't know how they would react, even if I was interested to the fact that I'm trans.
That is Julia Serano, an author and theorist who writes about gender, sexuality, and social justice. She's written many books, but she's best known for her 2007 masterpiece, Whipping Girl, which is a foundational text in trans studies and trans feminism. She's a legend in this space, and I'm absolutely giddy that she agreed to talk to me for this episode. In addition to her theoretical work, she also has lived experience as a trans woman. She's written a lot about the careful calculations it takes to be a trans person in the dating world.
And then if you are upfront about it, there's a chance that you can get people sending you transphobic messages. So there's, unfortunately, in a world where a lot of people are transphobic, it's just a really difficult thing to navigate.
Dating as a trans person is hell. I would say
it's already hell for everybody, and then
yeah. It's super hell.
Yeah. That is Hibby Thach, who's a PhD student at the University of Michigan's School of Information, where she studies trans people's online experiences.
I remember when I first started going on dating apps, I remember making my profile, being like, oh my God, I look so pretty. I look so cutesy. Like, yes. And I remember getting messages instantly. It's really jarring to get a Hinge notification that says, this person liked you. And then you check it and it's a like message that says, you're not a woman. Why are you on the woman's side of this app? You're a man. Get off this app. That's been an experience that I've had multiple times on those apps. So whenever I see a like, I'm like, well, this could be bad. This could be good. We will see.
Hibby also has a mustache, which you can hear about more in episode 1 of this season. That tends to bring out the jerks too.
I will get messages from guys who are like, shave the mustache. Or they're like, I would hit it if you shaved. So that sucks, obviously.
So being upfront about your transness opens you up to harassment before you ever have a conversation. But disclosing later, especially in person, opens you up to the risk of violence. Trans people are over 4 times more likely than cis people to be victims of violent crimes. That violence disproportionately targets transgender women of color. And when Black transgender women are murdered, 65% of the time, it's by a romantic partner.
Not only as a woman, you still have to like worry about like, oh, is this man a murderer? Is this person that I'm seeing gonna like do anything to me? I also have to worry like, if they see my genitals and they don't realize or anything like that, what is going to happen to me? Like, will I be safe?
So between disclosing up front and waiting until later, there's no good option. And the apps just worsen the problem. Part of this comes down to the way dating apps are designed.
A lot of the challenges are that any type of system like this requires categories. And so it has to know what category do you fall into in terms of how you identify yourself, what category of people are you attracted to that you want to be matched with those categories, and then which categories of people are actually going to see you on that dating app.
That is Oliver Haimson, an associate professor at the University of Michigan's School of Information. He also happens to be Hibby Thach's PhD advisor. The categories he's talking about might appear inclusive on the surface. Like, there are tons of options to choose from when defining your gender and sexuality. What's wrong with that? But when you look under the hood at the way these apps function, as a team from the University of Colorado Boulder did for a 2025 research article, things start to look a lot less inclusive. No matter what gender you choose, the app forces you to be grouped with men or women for matching. And the sexuality you select is mostly cosmetic, just for your profile. You have to choose whether you're interested in men, women, or both. And then it shows you matches from other oversimplified gender identities. This system might be fine for a cisgender dating pool with straightforward types of attraction, but when someone's gender and sexuality start to blur the binary, the app can't give them what they need. And by putting them in categories that don't fit, it opens them up to harassment from other users.
It's a really good example of people having complex identities and the databases and the technological infrastructure being relatively rigid. And there have been some newer platforms. So there's a platform called Lex, which is not specifically a dating app, but it's a way for people to meet each other. And there are some functions to connect people for dating purposes. And that is specifically targeted for queer and trans people. So that is actually working a lot better because they're actually not trying to meet the needs of cisgender straight people. And so they are able to do a lot better with avoiding categories that kind of minimalize people's identities in a lot of ways.
Trans people aren't the only ones who have to grapple with when to disclose to a potential new partner or deal with harassment on dating apps. Fat people, people with disabilities or mental health diagnoses, people with STIs like herpes or HIV, these characteristics all carry stigma that complicates dating. But there are some distinctions. Trans people face particular risks of violence when they disclose. They experience not only rejection, but a fundamental denial that their identity is even real. And unlike other stigmatized characteristics, gender is baked into the very infrastructure of dating apps. So trans people start out on the wrong foot the moment they sign up. That word, stigma, it keeps coming up. And Julia Serano has spent years studying how stigma actually works, particularly when it comes to attraction and desire.
Psychologists who study it have found that generally people who are stigmatized, people tend to view them as both contagious, that the stigma can contaminate them. So if you're too close or too intimate with the person who's stigmatized, that sort of rubs off on you. And then also this idea of stigma and contagion is very closely associated with feelings of disgust, which is why some people will maybe be disgusted by the fact that some people are attracted to trans people, or be disgusted themselves if they find themselves attracted to a trans person.
That means that even when someone is attracted to a trans person, they might still be carrying a lot of baggage that can harm the person they're attracted to.
Maybe they feel a little bit self-conscious about it, or worried about what their coworkers might think, or what would it mean if I brought this person home to my parents.
And this anti-trans stigma lurking in the background, it can be there even if you consciously believe that trans people are awesome and hot and full humans with rich internal lives. It can be there even if you yourself are trans. Julia Serano wrote about a moment early in her transition when she saw a film about two trans women in a relationship. And she said that initially, it kind of made her uncomfortable.
And I knew it, as soon as it happened, it struck me that that's very hypocritical, right? Or that's something that involves a lot of self-examination on my part, because it's well, how can I expect people to be in a relationship with me if I'm not open to the reverse, right? And so it helped me unpack further some of the anti-trans stigma that I had, and I feel that is generally useful in a world where trans people exist.
I've dated multiple people who told me, for example, that I was the first trans woman that they had been with, or that they were oh, I haven't been with a trans woman, but I am attracted. Don't worry, I'm bisexual, I'm pansexual, stuff like that. But it was either a lie or they were figuring out things with themselves. It seemed like the relationship was going well, we liked each other or we loved each other, but sex was an issue because they were not comfortable with a woman with a penis. And even if they told me, yes, I'm attracted to you, the actions said differently. And I feel like that's an experience that a lot of trans people can relate to, where maybe you will have this fun relationship with someone, but because you don't fit their idea of womanhood because of how you present or because of what genitals you have, it doesn't work out. And that sucks, because dating is already hard, as we just said. But dating and trying to find someone who affirms your transness, who is okay with your trans body, with your trans expression, makes it even harder and more niche and rare to find.
And then there's the flip side of the problem. People who are interested in your trans body, a little too much.
There are chasers, or people who are into trans people in a fetishizing way. And that's not great either. So I do have to figure out is this person into me because they are actually into me, or because they are into the idea of me being trans?
But the idea that there's something wrong with someone who's attracted to trans people because they're trans is a really problematic one, as Julia Serano told me. She calls this the fetish mindset.
This is the idea that some traits and human beings who possess those traits are illegitimate objects of desire. An analogy that I use, I think it's kind of useful to think about this. I used to be, when I was younger, I was very freckly. And I would sometimes have partners who would say, oh, I find your freckles cute or sexy. And I didn't think that was a big deal, because attraction to freckles are not pathologized. But it's also known that not everyone's attracted to them. So sometimes with some partners, I'd bring it up and they'd be like, oh, well, that's just a part of who you are. They didn't think it was necessarily particularly attractive or cute, but that was part of who I was. I'm a whole person, and that's just part of me. And that's how we think about most traits, except for those that we imagine are illegitimate objects of desires, and anyone who has any attraction to people who possess these traits are assumed to have a fetish. And it's often presumed that they are singularly obsessed by that particular trait, which is totally backwards once you kind of unfold that. If someone's attracted to trans people or fat people or people with disabilities, we'll say that those are fetishes. But there are a lot of people who exclusively date cisgender, thin, and or able-bodied people, and nobody calls that a fetish. As soon as you lay it out like that, it's really clear that this is a very broken way of thinking, that both pathologizes anyone who has interest in anybody who possesses those traits, and for the trans woman in this case, I cannot be seen as a legitimate object of desire. I can only be a fetish object.
That belief that anyone who's interested in you must be a chaser with a fetish, that poisons relationships too. It's another form of internalized anti-trans stigma.
And so I think unpacking and overcoming stigma is the key to all of this. So I can overcome my own anti-trans stigma so I don't necessarily pathologize people attracted to me. But also it's important for me in my partners, I don't want to date someone who's feeling a lot of anti-trans stigma, because if they are, they will view their attraction to me as like potentially stigmatizing in such a way that they might not want anyone that they know to know that they're dating a trans person.
Now, the challenges we've been talking about, the disclosure anxiety, the harassment, the stigma, these aren't experienced equally by all trans people. Trans women, and particularly trans women of color, bear the brunt of violence and harassment in the dating world in specific ways that trans men generally don't.
I think society, by and large, is more freaked out by the existence of trans female and trans feminine people, which makes us sort of absorb a lot of their attention. And that also leads to like trans male and trans masculine visibility.
Julia calls this trans misogyny, the intersection of transphobia and sexism. Here's how it works. In a misogynistic society, femininity is devalued. So when someone assigned male at birth transitions to female, it's seen as suspicious, even threatening. Why would anyone give up the privileges of maleness? As a result, trans women are targeted for violence, harassment, and ridicule in ways trans men aren't. Meanwhile, when someone assigned female at birth transitions to male, it makes more sense to that same misogynistic worldview. Of course you'd want to be a man. Who wouldn't? Trans men can fly more under the radar. They might get messages from the same kinds of people who haven't done the work, but they get nowhere near the same level of harassment. Charlie James, a comedian and trans man, had that experience.
A true dating app, I feel like it was not a big deal. It was very easy. But being bisexual and using like gay hookup sites, no fun. Didn't like it. You get a lot of attention, I think, from people who are like fetishizing or like interested in it, but maybe don't. They're really excited to talk to trans people, but not excited to like talk to a trans person. So it's interesting. Or you just get DMs that are like questions, but I'm like, but are you down? Like what's what's going on?
So with how hard it is to find someone who's truly attracted to you as a person, who doesn't need an entire college course to understand what's going on with you, it's no wonder that sometimes trans people find relationships with other trans people really appealing.
There is sort of this like trend or movement in trans spaces called T for T, where trans people only date trans people sort of thing. And it's very appealing to me. I unfortunately am also very attracted to cis people, but if I wasn't, T for T would be great. Yeah, and I think it's just great because trans people understand trans people. Like we might not have the same exact experience, but we understand that we all go through transphobia and we all like play with gender in different ways. So being able to like talk to each other and be open about like, well, this is how sex works for me, this is how gender works for me, and like how is that compatible with you, is something that I don't see often talking to cis people. I feel like often on dating apps or like dating cis people, there won't be that discussion of like, what are you into? How does this work for you? What feels good for you? And like, I feel like I see that more in kink spaces specifically, but obviously not all people are in those spaces.
These kinds of open conversations about bodies and pleasure aren't just useful for trans people. They're conversations everyone could benefit from having. We all have different bodies, and you can't assume that what worked for one partner will work for the next. But also, every relationship is different too. Let's not assume that there's something magical about T for T relationships. Trans people are just people, and two people who are trans might have a lot in common, but they'll also have all the other habits, drives, and desires that can make or break a relationship. I mean, trans people leave their dirty socks on the floor too. Something I was really curious about for this episode is about how attractions can shift after someone transitions. Why is it that someone assigned male at birth, for example, might originally date women, but then after transitioning, start to date men? The answer, which I'm learning is a theme to this season, and maybe this entire podcast, is this. Everything about humans is a gray area, even when you've learned it's black and white. That includes sexuality. Even if someone is outwardly attracted to one kind of person, they can have the seed of attraction to someone different. Julia calls this a predisposition.
If you have a predisposition for, say, a type of, medical condition, it doesn't mean you will get it. It means that it's possibly there and it may manifest at some point. And I think it's very clear that with gender identity and gender expression and sexual orientation, that there are some predispositions.
Some people grow up knowing 100% that they're gay or trans or whatever, and it never changes. But for other people,
maybe different possibilities manifest, and maybe there's a little bit more flexibility there. So it is very common for people when they transition to experience changes in sexual orientation. I was generally attracted to girls when I was a kid growing up, and I experienced a little bit later some latent attraction to men, but I didn't want to be a man with other men. And so the idea of being a gay man, it kind of went counter to everything I experienced. But after transitioning, and that can be multiple things. I mean, hormones change you physiologically, your body changes. I think it's really important to think of ourselves as we're embodied in the world, and people were perceiving me in different ways, and just different sets of possibilities opened up to make the possibility of me dating men something that I was not just open to, but interested in certain situations.
Jamie, the trans woman you heard on the last episode, also ended up dating a different gender than before her transition. She had identified as a gay man previously and dated men. The way she describes it, her attractions were always there. She just never felt comfortable acting on them.
I'm not sure so much that they changed totally, because I always used to say that I was physically attracted to men and emotionally attracted to women. During this transition process, a female friend of mine that I've known for probably a decade, we were just at a bar and she was being a little bit flirty and I was being a little bit flirty back, because why not? And then we both kind of did a wait, what, really? And I was like, yeah, I'm into it if you're into it. She's like, I thought you only like guys. I was like, well, it's easier to say that I'm gay for years and to not have to explain everything all the time. Honestly, for me, I don't even know if gender really even matters that much anymore in the other person. The first person I started dating is a cis woman. My girlfriend that just moved in is a trans woman. And I mean, I would still date a guy. Gay guys tend to find me pretty off-putting, and the things that straight men say to me are so incredibly gross. I don't know that I would want to go there.
But if there was a guy that wasn't either of those things, then maybe...
Yeah, if there was a straight guy that isn't holding a fish in his profile picture, I might think about it.
So clearly, it is complicated to date as a trans person. And cis people are not making it any easier. But I hear some of you cis listeners saying, what am I supposed to do about it? I'm just not attracted to trans people. I can't help that. I posed that question to Julia Serano.
That's the thing, because if you meet a lot of trans people, we come in all different shapes and sizes, and I think that if you saw all the trans people, you would find some of them attractive. I would describe as self-examining desire. Not necessarily to change your sexuality. There's not an end result that you're supposed to get, but I think it's very useful for us to examine, well, why am I attracted to this person? If you're attracted to someone who's conventionally attractive for one reason or another, maybe you're attracted to them because you're just naturally attracted to that trait, or maybe it's that society has told you that that's an attractive trait and you've sort of bought into it. And I think that all of us, to varying degrees, can think through some of these issues and try to get to the bottom of what are we interested in, and kind of balancing that with what the world expects of us. And sometimes they don't match up.
So, dating while trans is, as Hibby put it, super hell. The disclosure dilemma has no good answer. The apps don't work right. Partners might claim they're fine, but their actions say otherwise. Violence is a real possibility. And even when you find someone great, stigma can poison the relationship from the outside. But things are changing.
I think that it's something that is surely getting better, even if it's not getting better fast enough, especially for younger generations, because more people are coming out as trans, and so more people are growing up knowing trans kids. They're just trans people who are part of their social circles. And so that can, I think, really help to minimize the possibility that people will like freak out about the fact that you're trans and they're potentially interested in you.
The thing about dating while trans is that it reveals something fundamental about how we treat trans people everywhere. Dating is where attraction, desire, intimacy, and vulnerability all collide. It's where stigma becomes personal in a way it doesn't when you're debating bathroom bills or sports policies. When someone has to calculate whether disclosing their gender identity might get them killed, when someone's very existence on a dating app is treated as a violation, when attraction itself is stigmatized, that tells you everything you need to know about how we view trans people's fundamental humanity. None of that is inevitable. Trans people are already doing their part. They're showing up, having the hard conversations, taking the risks. The question is whether cis people are willing to do the same. Thanks for listening. If you're a paid Patreon member, stick around to the end of the credits for some bonus content. If you're not, head to patreon.com/taboo science to join for as little as $5 a month. You'll get ad-free episodes and bonus clips that you won't find in the main feed. A million thanks to Julia Serano. When I sent the email asking her to be on the show, it was a true what have I got to lose moment. And I completely flipped out when she said yes. Read all of her books, starting with Whipping Girl and moving on to Sexed Up, How Society Sexualizes Us and How We Can Fight Back, along with many, many others. She even has a novel called 99 Erics about a writer writing a book about dating 99 people named Eric. Her website is juliaserano.com. Thank you also to Oliver Haimson. You can check out his book, Trans Technologies, along with all of his other work at his website, oliverhaimson.com. And last but not least, thanks to those community voices, Hibby, Thach, Charlie James, and Jamie. Hibby is at hibbythach.com. That's HIBBYTHACH.com. Charlie James is at charliejamescomedy.com. And Jamie is on my own personal Facebook feed sharing the latest gourmet meal she's made from scratch. Taboo Science is written and produced by me, Ashley Hamer Pritchard. Our sensitivity reader is Newton Shavakati. The theme was by Danny Lopatka of DLC Music. Episode music is from Epidemic Sound. On the next episode, we're talking about the wedge issue of all wedge issues, the Trojan horse of the trans bands, the thing that makes even your most progressive friends say, I think they have a point. We're talking about trans athletes. I hope you tune in. I won't tell anyone.